just make his tweet larger. There you go. Look, see, he said, did I read this right? I don't know how to say her name. It's Susan Wojcicki. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say her name. Wojcicki said that women find geeky male industries as opposed to social industries not very interesting, and Sundar cites research on gender differences.
That's exactly the difference in interest that I just pointed out.
Yes, and this is what James Damore wrote in his memo that got him fired. And this, in my mind, if I was the lawyer for James Damore, I'd be like, oh, well, look what we have here. This is checkmate.
Yeah.
You dummies. You just said
the
what he said.
The Damore story is really interesting, because I think it's such a classic story of an engineer getting tangled up in politics. So Damore went to this diversity seminar, and he wasn't very happy about it because he knew the literature. And so at the end of the seminar, they asked for feedback. Well, James Damore is an engineer. So when you tell an engineer that you want feedback, the engineer thinks, oh, you want feedback, and you want like facts and stuff, right? Because that's what feedback would be like. So Damore went and wrote this like thorough memo and gave it to them. He said, well, this is what I think, here's some feedback. And then it traveled around. He got no real response from the diversity people, and then he posted it on one of these internal boards at Google where people can discuss things, which people at Google do all the time. So it was perfectly reasonable for him to post it because he didn't get a response from the diversity people. He thought, well, let's see what other people think. And then it was there for a long time until it was leaked up into the outside world. It wasn't like Damore was trying to expose Google for what it is. He was just doing what an engineer type would do when someone asked him to provide feedback, because he's not thinking politically. He's not thinking, oh, they just want to hear what they already said. He thought they actually wanted some facts. Anyways, I think they picked on the wrong guy, because Damore turns out to be pretty damn tough.
Well, he's very smart and a very kind guy. When you sit down and talk to him, he's not a sexist. He's a guy that's talking about facts. In fact, he wrote more than a page and a half, I believe, on strategies for getting more women interested in tech. He's not a sexist. This is just a guy that was talking about the differences in the choices that people make that's based on just the variations that you were just discussing.
Yeah, well, there's a good study done a while ago, and unfortunately I don't remember the author, but they were looking at junior high math prodigies. And they're pretty equally distributed between boys and girls. But by the time university came along, the math prodigy boys, they tend to go into the STEM fields, but the girls wouldn't. And it isn't because they lacked ability, because they had stellar ability. It's because they weren't interested. And it turns out, like the interest thing turns out to be a big one. So with personality alone, if you measure men and women's personalities, and then you add up all the differences in personalities, you could tell with about 75 to 80% certainty by looking at a full personality readout whether a person's male or female. So you'd be wrong 25% of the time, something like that. But if you add interest to that, you can get it up to about 90%. And so, you say, well, are these differences large? Well, individually, they're not that big. They make more difference at the extremes. But if you add them up, then you can almost completely differentiate men from women. So by that token, they're very large. And the interest thing actually turns out to matter a lot. Like, it's probably the most important individual difference that has been discovered between men and women at the psychological level. It has real decent explanatory power, because you might say, well, men have a slight edge in spatial intelligence, and that's why they're overrepresented in the STEM fields. And women have a slight edge in verbal intelligence. This is debatable, but the literature kind of indicates that, and that's why they're overwhelmingly the majority of fiction readers, for example. Is that the reason that there's differential representation in the STEM fields? It's like, no, it doesn't seem to be. It doesn't look like it's an intellectual issue, which is also what Damore pointed out, by the way. He never said once that this was a cognitive issue, but it's a matter of choice, matter of interest. And women tend to be more people-oriented. Now, the thing is, this has also been discovered in chimpanzees and other primates. Like, if you offer baby or child chimpanzees, juvenile chimpanzees, the choice between thing-like toys, like cars, or people-like toys, like dolls, the males will go for the thing-like toys and the females will go for the people-like toys. So you see that in primates. And you think, well, is that surprising? It's like, well, no, it's not. It's not that surprising, really. I mean, women have to take care of infants, tiny infants, and you have to be really people-oriented to do that, because a tiny infant is an unbelievably demanding social relationship, and it's a primary relationship for about 2 years, and so women are tilted towards the kind of temperament that makes that possible. It's like, well, is that such a shock? Really? Such a surprise? So,
No,
yeah.
it's not a surprise. And what's confusing to me is the narrative that anybody that points out these differences is somehow a sexist or discriminatory or worse.
Yeah. Well, whatever epithet they can. Well, I think the other reason that the left, the radical lefties have been going after me constantly is, well, there's one reason is if you stand up against the radical left, you're in a group that also has Nazis in it. Because the Nazis also stand up against the radical left. So it's perfectly reasonable from a strategic perspective for the radical leftists to say, well, you're against us. How do we know you're not a Nazi? It's like, well, statistically, I'm probably not. So there's that. But you could say at least the question is open. But then the next part of it comes is that it's motivated epithet slinging, because if I'm reasonable and I'm standing up against the radical left, and they admit that I'm reasonable, then there has to be an admission that reasonable people could stand up against the radical left, which kind of implies that the radical left isn't that reasonable. And so, well, they're not going to go there. Of course, they're not that reasonable. They're unreasonable beyond belief, as we saw in the situation with Lindsay Shepherd in Canada. So at Wilfrid Laurier University.
Let's talk about that real quick, because that was a fascinating thing too, and that also had to do with you. So she was discussing you in class, and could you fill in everybody?
Yeah, she's in the communications department at Wilfrid Laurier, and they were talking about the role of language in communication, which is kind of what you would do in a communication class. And she decided to show a 5-minute clip from a program I had done for TV Ontario, which is a public television station, mainstream, left-leaning, liberal television station news program, and a good one. And I had been on there with a number of other people, including Professor Nicholas Matt from the University of Toronto, who claimed essentially that there were no biological differences between men and women, and that had been the scientific consensus for the last 4 decades. So anyways, she showed a clip from this, and, well, she got hauled in front of 2 professors and an administrator, Adria Joel, who was basically hired for that purpose, and raked over the coals for daring to show this video. And she had the wherewithal to tape it. And then she made the tape public, and in that tape they compared me. It was really blackly comical, They compared me to Hitler, but then said, well, it's Hitler or Milo Yiannopoulos. I thought, you guys, you're so damn clueless, you can't even get your insults right. It's like, you can't say, that's like playing a video of Hitler or Milo Yiannopoulos. It's like, first of all, Hitler and Milo Yiannopoulos, they're actually not in the same category, right? Except that they're both human. That's about the narrowness of the category. And then Milo's like a comic provocateur, and you can hate him or love him or be indifferent. But to put him in the same category as Hitler just shows how muddle-headed you are. And then to assimilate me to that category so carelessly, like, you don't mess about with epithets like that. Now, Hitler was one of the great supervillains of the 20th century, right? I mean, he's up there with Stalin and Mao in the panoply of satanically possessed leaders. You don't just toss that around, especially not when you're torturing your teaching assistant for daring to show a video about language in a communication class. And so that was a massive scandal in Canada. It was the biggest, I think it was the biggest scandal that ever hit a university in Canada. And it got a lot of international attention, and rightly so. And she also turned out to be a tough cookie. I mean, the last I heard, she started a club at Wilfrid Laurier, and I think it was last night or the night before, maybe it's coming up. They're going to show the whole video from Television Ontario at a club meeting and invite people to come and discuss it. It's like they picked on the wrong girl there too.
So they certainly did. She's obviously very smart. You can hear that in her discussion with how flabbergasted she was by her take on things. But this was essentially proof to a lot of people that were on the outside of how preposterous some of the dialogue was inside the universities.
Yeah, well, they couldn't have done me a bigger favor than having that scandal, because when I made a video about Bill C-16 15 months ago, I said, look, here's what's going to happen, because this legislation is written in an appalling manner and the surrounding policies are pathological. I said, here's what's going to happen. And so I laid it out. And then people came out and said, no, you're being paranoid. That's possible. No, the legislation isn't going to have that effect. No, you're not a legal expert. What the hell do you know? Et cetera, et cetera. You're crazy. You're a bigot. You're a transphobe. You know, they threw everything but the kitchen sink at me. And like, fair enough. You know, because I don't know I was wrong. But the problem was that I read them all, and I understood them, and I knew when they were made. But I never imagined that one of the consequences of Bill C-16 and its sister legislation was that a teaching assistant at a Canadian university would be pilloried and accused of breaking the law, and then accused of all sorts of reprehensible political beliefs by two professors and an administrator hired for that purpose, merely because she showed a video about two people talking about the law. Just like that paranoid as I am, let's say, that exceeded the grasp of the reach of my imagination. And then, of course, it was made public and people just couldn't believe it. And then you think, okay, well, what's the defense? Well, they misinterpreted Bill C-16. But no, I don't think so. They aren't representative of the university professor and administration. Well, all of Pimlott and Rambacana's colleagues rose to their defense, the whole department. The university, when they apologized, did it in a very mealy-mouthed way. Like, there's no evidence that it was an anomalous occurrence. So what had happened is they overextended the reach of Bill C-16 in exactly the way that I said would happen. It was inevitable. And it wasn't an anomaly. That's actually the way that the universities are. And it is the way that they are. It wasn't a one-off. It was exactly diagnostic. And it's appalling. It's appalling. The universities have so much to be ashamed of. There's an article in the Milwaukee World this week saying the same thing, that all of this crazy postmodern identity politics, equality of outcome nonsense is not only disruptive to the university in a way that might be irreparable as far as I can tell, but it's rapidly spreading outside into the normal, say, business world, which is exactly what you see, for example, at Google.
Well, the tech industry in particular seems to be like more left-leaning than pretty much any industry there is. And I guess it's because there's so many intelligent people there, so many people that have spent a tremendous amount of time in universities and they get indoctrinated into this mindset. And you're seeing that in this. The CEO of YouTube's response to the James Damore memo completely misrepresented it. Though they're talking about harmful gender stereotypes, it's not what he talked about at all. What's fascinating to me about all of this is it just removes the tribalism that these people on the left have decided. I mean, and I'm mostly on the left, which is really crazy. I mean, when it comes to most policies, most thoughts of equality and the idea of just letting people be who they are. I mean, that's what the left used to stand for. It used to stand for being open-minded. It used to stand for being a reasonable person. Now it seems to be all about this very toxic tribal ideology, and this is one of the reasons why so many of these attacks on you are so baffling to me. It's because there's a willful ignorance or a deceptive narrative. There's a deceptive description of who you are, what you're saying, and what you represent. And it's this conveniently categorized, not even convenient, willfully, deceptively categorized into these categories of homophobia, transphobia, sexism. These are reprehensible categories that if they can just shove something that you're saying, figure out a way to push you into this little narrow line, then everyone has to disagree with you, everyone has to insult you, and everyone has to like take that girl into their office and chastise you for not even speaking up for you.
Right? She said she wasn't.
Yes. That's what was more fascinating about it than anything.
Yeah, then they gave her hell for that. Like, well, you can't present something like that neutrally. That's like presenting something Hitler said neutrally. Or maybe Milo Yiannopoulos.
It's so strange, but what they don't understand, and this is what's really crazy, is that the world is watching. And that most people, maybe it's the 64 years they're talking about before when it comes to aggressive women versus aggressive men. I don't know what the number is.
I think it's about 50 to 1, actually. Like, I've been watching the comments on YouTube and so forth, trying to track this. It's like, I think that what the radical leftists are doing is overwhelmingly unrepresentative of the general population. Yes. Overwhelmingly. But they're they're a very well organized and verbal and prepared minority, and they occupy powerful positions in many, many institutions. HR, one of the things I really can't figure out right now, and for anybody who's running a company that's listening, they should think this through. Like, to let these postmodern neo-Marxists into your company through the guise of human resources is an absolute catastrophe. You're going to pay for that. This is the ideology that drives postmodern neo-Marxism, this identity politics, the identity politics movement, and its insistence on equality of outcomes is powerfully anti-capitalist, powerfully anti-Western. Why you would let that into your company is so that you can look good socially, let's say, is beyond me. It's a big mistake.
I agree with you, but I don't think people are aware of it. I think part of the problem is this battleground is largely ignored by the general population. I don't think most people are aware of what's going on. You are. You're deeply embedded in the university system in Canada, and you're obviously now branching out into YouTube and podcasts and all these different ways to get this information out. But the average person that is a CEO of a company, or they're concerned with their own company, they're concerned with their own individual needs, they're concerned with organizing things, keeping the bottom line. And
yeah, but they're also concerned with looking fair and making sure that they're not prejudiced and all of that, which is laudable. But
I just don't think they see the wave coming.
No, they don't. They don't see it coming. They don't understand it. And they're incautious about it, but they're going to pay for it. Well, Google is a good example, because now what they do is a lot of feminists stand for, like, being prejudiced against females and also being prejudiced against conservatives. It's like, well, so both camps are after them. I think, well, why is that? It's like, well, that's what happens when you play identity politics, is tribalism. And this is really what I can't stand about identity politics, and I've been warning about the consequences of it on the right wing too, because what I see happening is that as the left, like, let's say the left gets to define the linguistic territory, which is what I was objecting to with Bill C-16 when it came out. I said, look, I'm not going to use these neologisms, Z and Z, etc., because as far as I'm concerned,
they have nothing. People don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah, well,
there's a different made-up gender pronouns
yeah,
to describe people in the non-male.
That's right. So there's like 70 different categories of non-binary gender or something like that generated now, and there's lists of pronouns that hypothetically the people who are in those categories can choose to be addressed by, and now that has the force of law. And so, and I don't care if they choose to be addressed by those pronouns. Whatever. That's up to them and whoever else they can convince or ask or entreat or negotiate with. Fine. As soon as it's law, that's a whole different story. Okay, so now I have to use a certain terminology. So then I look at the derivation of the terminology. I say, oh, that's terminology generated by the postmodern neo-Marxists. Oh, well, I think those people are reprehensibly murderous. So guess what? I'm not going to say their words, period, because I know what they're like. I know where that leads. So
most people think that's a gigantic step. From saying you don't want to say Z or Zer or these made-up gender pronouns to these are words. So adamant about it, I had to start reading about it myself. I had to start doing more research about it myself. And I think most people hear Marxism and they think socialism.
Yeah.
They think pooling all your money together, making things more even.
Yeah, like they are in Venezuela. Everybody has an equal chance to starve to death. So you know how the Venezuelan government solved the problem of kids starving to death in hospitals? They made it illegal for the doctors to report starvation as the cause of death. Right. That's Venezuela in a nutshell. Yeah, everyone's equal there. They all have the same number of bones to gnaw on.
Yeah, that's a horrible thing, but
yeah, it's a horrible thing.
Undeniable. But there's no connection between gender pronouns and murder. It's a big leap.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, that's why you have to look at the underlying ideology. When you think, well, what is the level at which these things should be addressed? What is an economic level? Is it for meanings of this ideology? You understand the roadmap. Yeah, there's no answer. Yeah, right. Well, and I think that's why I recommend read Solzhenitsyn's The Life of Alexander. So actually, there's a set of books that lay this out perfectly. You read Dostoevsky wrote a book called The Possessed or The Devil, and it's a description of the initial breakdown of the Orthodox Christian society in Russia in the late 1800s and the rise of radical socialist ideas. So it's sort of like the prodroma to the Russian Revolution. It's a brilliant book, and it concentrates on the personalities that are involved. And then if you read after that, Solzhenitsyn's Gulag Archipelago, where he details what he does in that book is quite remarkable. He says, look, tens of millions of people killed from 1919 to 1959 in the Soviet Union. And as a consequence of internal repression. And it's so dreadful that words can't do it justice. I mean, it's absolutely dreadful what happened in the Soviet Union. I mean, just for starters, 6 million Ukrainians died in the 1930s because of forced starvation. In fact, in the 1930s, here's how terrible it was. So all the food that collective farmers, newly collectivized farmers, had produced, which wasn't very much, by the way, was taken from them and brought to the cities. So all the farmers starved to death. Now here's how draconian it got. So let's say you were the mother of some children, and all your grain had been shipped off to the cities, and you thought, well, I'm not going to have my children starve to death. I'm going to go out in the field, and I'm going to, on my hands and knees, and I'm going to pick up the grains that are left over that the harvesters didn't get, and I'm going to feed those to my kids. That was punishable by death. You were supposed to hand in those extra bits of grain so that they could be shipped to the city as well. So that was just the beginning of the fun in the Soviet Union. And what Solzhenitsyn did was say, look, this wasn't a consequence of the Marxist system gone wrong. This was a consequence of the Marxist system. It was an inevitable consequence of the axioms of the Marxist system. And then he lays that out. And it's, well, I think he got it right.
What is that connection? What is the connection?
How much tyranny you have to impose in order to produce something like equality of outcome. And Thomas Sowell talked about this a little bit too. He said, what the people who are agitating for equality of outcome don't understand is that you have to cede so much power to the authorities, to the government, in order to ensure equality of outcome that a tyranny is inevitable. And that's right. And then the other problem with equality of outcome, this is a big technical problem, is like, well, what measure of there's lots of outcomes, like how happy are you? How much pain are you in? How healthy are you? How much money do you have? How much opportunity for movement forward do you have? What's the width of your social connections? Like, what's the quality of your friendships? Do you have exposure to art and literature? Like, you can multiply the number of dimensions of evaluation between people innumerably, right? Because there's all sorts of ways to classify people. You're going to get equality of outcome on every one of those measures? Is like everyone going to have to be equally happy in their relationship? And if not, why not? Why stop with economic? Why stop with pay? There's no place to stop. So, and that's a huge technical problem. Because there is no place to stop, there will be no stopping. Like, nobody can have anything else. Nobody can have anything that everyone else doesn't have at the same time. That's the ultimate outcome of equality of outcome. Well, you think about what that would mean. It's terrible. Well, instantly you think, oh, well, there's nothing but a tyrannical system could impose that.
Have you ever debated a Marxist supporter? Have you ever debated someone who is pro-equality of outcome?
No, they don't debate me. Well, the closest thing I think is to that was that debate I did about the Bill C-16 issues. But they didn't actually have a debate in a forum, which is the postmodern equivalent of a debate. It's supposed to be friendlier, I suppose. But no, I haven't, because people don't do it. They don't have it.
What is it about that idea, or that ideology about Marxism that's so attractive to young students and to
I think it goes back to the issue of inequality. And this is something that has to be dead seriously addressed. It's like, you might say, well, why is the left wing necessary? Let's work that out. So, and then the subset of that would be, well, why is the left wing attractive? Well, the left wing is necessary because inequality does spiral out of control. And so there has to be a political voice for the dispossessed. And you don't want people to stack up at zero, when they can't play the game at all. It's a bad idea. Not only do you not get people stack up at zero, they're too poor to get ahead at all, let's say. They're too poor to open a bank account. They're too poor to buy enough food. Like, they're stuck at zero and they can't get out of it. it's a really bad scene because first of all, that's a lot of suffering, and that's what's good. Second of all, well, at least in principle, what those people might be, might have something to offer the world or their children, and you want to open up avenues of opportunity to them so that they can succeed, but so that everyone else can benefit from their success. So, and then the next thing is, well, if the inequality gets out of hand too much, then the whole society starts to destabilize. Because if you get enough people stacked up at zero, especially young men, you get enough young men stacked up at zero, they think, oh, to hell with it, we'll just flip the whole board over, and it'll settle in a new configuration, and maybe we won't be stuck at zero in the new configuration. So it foments revolutionary thinking. So there's lots of reasons to be concerned about inequality. And so you need a voice on the left to say, look, we've got to parameterize the tendency towards inequality so that it doesn't destabilize the entire society, so that everybody has an opportunity to advance. Yes, right, you need that. Okay, so that's the technical reason for the necessity of the left. And then I think it's attractive because young people can be resentful, partly because they're at the bottom of the heap, so to speak. They're not, because they're young. Like, look, you want to be poor in 18, you want to be rich in 80. Which are you going to choose?
Well, you're going to take more in 80.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you've been rich at 80 and you understand you can get back there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is that most of the people who have $1 million or more in the United States are old. Well, why is that? Well, really, do we need an explanation for that? It's like you've had a lot more time to make money. How would that be? That's the explanation. So that's one of the big drivers of inequality. It's just simply age. But it's not obvious that the old rich people have an advantage over the young starting out people. So anyways, but anyhow, maybe you're resentful and irritated because you're young and you're still at the bottom of the heap, and you've got other problems too. It's more difficult for people of your race or ethnicity or gender, at least you think it is. And so you say, well, I want to make things fair, and then that's also driven by some real passion, because nobody really likes that, the consequences of radical inequality. Like, nobody likes the fact that homeless people should exist and have to go to the emergency ward, to get treated, and they don't have medical coverage, and they have to live in tents on the street. And so if you have some passion, then you think, well, this presents. It's like, okay, that's an understandable sentiment. But the problem is that it's that society is contaminated by resentment and ideological certainty, and then also by something that George Orwell pointed out so nicely in his book Road to Wigan Pier. It's like the typical middle-class socialist, this was his diagnosis, he was a socialist, but his diagnosis was the typical middle-class intellectual socialist doesn't like the poor. In fact, they don't have anything to do with the poor. They're contemptuous of the poor, but they hate the rich. And I think it's even more devious than that, because I think who they hate are the successful. Some of the successful are rich, but really they hate the successful. It's like Cain and Abel. It's the retelling of Cain and Abel. And so there's some positive motivations for being engaged on the left, and there's a lot of negative motivations as well. And the people who are really driven by the radical left ideology, the real radicals, they're almost all driven by resentment and hatred, as far as I'm concerned. Now, let's look at both extremes. So, back to the idea of the ideological and verbal territory. I said with Bill C-16 that I wouldn't speak the language of the radical leftists, because I don't think that language should define the game. But let's say it does. So here's the game. The world is a battleground of groups, and they're battling for power. That's it. That's the game. And some of them win, and they oppress those who don't win. So that's how we're going to view the world. Okay, now the leftists say, okay, well, here's the oppressed people. The oppressors, patriarchal types, they should be ashamed of themselves and give up some power. The right-wingers, the radical right-wingers look at that and they say, oh, I see, so the game is ethnic identity, is it? It's identity politics. Okay, we're white males. We're not going to lose. That's the right-wing version of identity politics. It's like, screw you. If we're going to divide into groups, if we're going to divide into tribes, and I'm in my tribe, I'm not going to get all guilty and lose. I'm going to get all cruel and win. And that's like, then you think, well, there's people in the middle. They're kind of looking back and forth. Which side of the identity politics spectrum am I going to fall in? Do I want to go with do I want to be driven primarily by compassion, and am I going to accept guilt for my historical privilege? So that's one possibility. And then I'm the oppressor. I'm the member of the oppressor group. Or am I going to say, no, to hell with that, I'm just going to play to win? Well, then I'm going to go to the right. It's like, well, my sense is, how about we don't play either of those games? And the reason we shouldn't play them is, the Soviets played the left. They killed who knows how many tens of millions of people. You can't even count it accurately. The estimates range from 20 to 100 million. Those are pretty big error bars. And the Maoists, maybe 100 million, certainly 60 million. So, okay, that didn't work out so well. And then there's the Nazis, like they played ethnic identity politics and racial superiority. It's like, what do we want to play that game? See, what I've been trying to do, really, what I've been trying to do for the last 30 years is say, look, there's heavy temptations to play this sort of game. But that's not the one game in town. It's a much better game to play individually. Get your act together. Stand up in the world. Make something of yourself. Stay away from the ideological oversimplifications. Set your house in order. That's rule 6. In this book, so I have a book rule in there that says, set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. And it's a very dark chapter about the motivations of the Columbine accident. Serial rapist, murderer. And he wrote an autobiography, and the Columbine kids also wrote about what they did. They're resentful, bitter, resentful, terrible. And I'm suggesting that people stay away from that resentfulness and bitterness. Life is hard, and there's no efforts involved. But yeah, you can tell a story where everyone's a victim, because we all die, we all get sick. And things happen to us that are bitter and terrible. Betrayal, deceit, lies, like people hurt us on purpose. So it's not just the tragedy of life. It's malevolence as well. Everyone's a victim. You can tell that story. The problem is, if you tell that story, you start to make all of that worse. That's the problem. And so this is why partly I want to track Christian imagery, at least in part. Because there's an idea in Christianity that you should pick up your goddamn cross and walk up the hill. And that's dramatically, that's correct. That's the right answer. It's like, you've got a heavy load of suffering to bear, and a fair bit of it's going to be unjust. What are you going to do about it? Accept it voluntarily, and try to transform it. That's the right answer. It's the right answer. And the rest of it is tribal. And we're too technologically
Dude, just AFK as a jungle.
What's exciting to me is that I think this is the first time in my life that I've ever seen so much communication on these subjects. And I think so much recognition about the consequences of toxic tribalism. This tribal thinking that everyone seems to be engaged in on the right and on the left. I mean, in America, you need to go no further than going back and forth from CNN to Fox News to say something's wrong here. These are supposed to be news outlets.
This is really sad.
And that has nothing to do with what we're talking about with gender politics and radical left socialism and Marxism. What you're seeing in universities, though, is a radical departure from what I always considered universities great for. What I always considered universities great for is separating from your parents, challenging belief systems, and being engaged in the works of brilliant people who you can compare all of their findings and their discoveries and sit down and debate them in class. And when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I went to a very good high school, Newton South High School in Newton, Massachusetts. And one of the things that they did is they put on a debate between a guy from the Moral Majority, which was this right-wing Christian group that I don't even know if they're around anymore, but this was I was 14, so 81. And Barney Frank, who was that congressman, is now one of the first openly gay guys in Congress. And you got to watch these two people in this auditorium debate their points. And this Moral Majority guy had this, right-wing Ronald Reagan sort of point of view, and Barney Frank, who's kind of crazy. He's got busted in some male prostitute scandal, but the gay community, that's not that big of a deal. And just Barney Frank took him apart. It was brilliant to watch, but it was a real debate. It was fascinating. and you got to see a mediocre mind versus a great mind, and you got to see this little thing, and I was like, wow, this is, and it's one of the things that's always attracted me about the idea that two people with differing viewpoints can get together in front of a neutral audience, and these people can sort of decipher which way these people are thinking and why they're thinking.
Yeah, well, and bad as that is, and rife with conflict as that is, the alternative is to separate, as you pointed out, into two camps that don't talk.
Yes.
And the thing is, the consequence of not talking is that you fight. That's the end game. Because the only way you can stop from fighting with other people is by negotiating with them. And you know, one of the things that's also interesting, and this is partly why Silicon Valley leads to the left, is that a fair bit of your political preference is determined by your biological temperament. It's strongly influenced. So if you're a creative type who's kind of disorderly, then you're likely to be on the liberal left end of the distribution. And if you're a non-creative type who's orderly and especially if you're orderly, then you tend to be on the right wing end of things. And so, well, why is that? Why do those variations exist? Well, they exist because some of the time your best strategy is to do what other people have done and shut the hell up and just do it. Run the algorithm, right? The pathway's already laid clear, it works. Stay in the damn rut and move forward. Okay, so that's the conservative approach. And when things are going right, it's the right approach. The problem is that sometimes it's not the right approach because something is shifted. And so something new has to emerge. And so then there's a bunch of people who are adapted to the new. And those are the entrepreneurial and creative types. And of course, they dominate Silicon Valley because it's a very entrepreneurial, what would you call it? Geography. And so they're going to lean to the left. But they have to understand, people have to.
I'm racing my friend David right now to see who can reach level 50 first, and I'm definitely winning. I just sold a...
Oh, can you do a video where Brad presents instead of you? That's just so fucking stupid. Oh yeah, Carl, do an inside joke for 1% of your fan base. It's going to piss off the majority of your viewers. Yay! Basketball is a sport dominated by men I could diplomatically describe as refrigerator-shaped. A fact that could be largely attributed to one man, George Mikan, a player so dominant that when opposing teams got the ball, they just stopped playing. So describe George Mikan for us. Well, he was a 6'10", 250-pound basketball-playing powerhouse who was just so utterly dominant at the sport that, as we're about to discuss, he's led to several rule changes as a direct result of just how fucking good he was. And he's like described as the first big man of basketball because he was the first player over a certain height to be drafted to a team. And you'd think, with the reputation basketball players have today as being ginormous, huge men, George Mikan would have been a natural fit for any team, but no, when he was first drafted to his first team in like college or some shit, basketball fans just writ him off as like, oh, novelty. Like, oh, he's never going to make it. Because the prevailing idea at the time was that large, tall men couldn't play basketball. Just think about that for a moment. I think even like the shortest people in like the NBA, like 6'2", 6'4", and there are outliers, of course, but the vast majority of all basketball players are over a certain height. So even if you're not that good at basketball, your height is just such an advantage over everybody else.
It's like in soccer with Peter Crouch.
Yes.
He was Peter Crouch.
He's a weird gangly ladder man.
And they kept, people made fun of him. It's like his all-around ability wasn't like the soccer, but he was so tall that whenever you put a cross, it's like the same for Peter.
Yeah, and they combined it. I think Stoke City managed to get in Peter Crouch, and they had Rowan Delap, who we talked about before, who was a player who, again, he wasn't that great, but he had amazing throw-ins. He was so accurate, he could just throw it straight to Peter Crouch and he had it straight in. But just think about this for a moment, though. Like, basketball is a sport about putting a ball into a hoop like 10 foot in the air, and this guy could reach that without jumping. And all the fans are going, oh no, it'll never work. Basketball is the sport of the 5'7" tall man. Like, what?
Anyone would think that a sport where you literally have to throw it with one foot is not going to be benefited by some of the
especially men as large as Mikan, were just simply too tall, gangly, and awkward to have the finesse of a basketball player. To be fair, they were correct, and Mikan's initial foray into the world of basketball wasn't that great. Mostly because he wasn't that confident in his size. His coach noticed this. When Mikan is the biggest fucking guy on the court, you don't need to be careful. You should be dominating every game you're in. What he did to improve his confidence and help him with his hand-eye coordination is make him take ballet lessons. When he made him down, he was small, he was flash. He got used to controlling his frame and after that, Mikan sadly never get it.
David Johnson. Yes, he made the league. You say you're trying to match Michael with the shortest we can find.
Yes.
It's like he's just always a dog.
But you need to help him learn how to control himself. So this is how he should move around people who are smaller than himself. And obviously that helps his footwork as well, because obviously one of the things he was really bad at was just obviously self-confidence, like leaning on and shit. It just helped him basically just gain confidence in himself, which just turned him into the most formidable asset his team had. The moment that Michael realised, no, fuck you, I'm 6'10", I'm winning this shit. His team just started utterly steamrolling every other team they came against. Largely because he was so massive, he could do things that nobody else in the court could. What kind of stuff could he do? Let's start with the defence, and Michael was so tall that when the other team had the ball, he could literally stand in front of the net and just pass the ball aside and went in. Is that against the rule? Well, it is now, because of Michael, is at the time he played, there's nobody thought anyone told him to pull that shit off. They never thought that they could get it. So it's a physical against the rule. Like, you can literally stand in the net and bat everyone. Alright, Michael, go on, assume the formation.
I hope
I think that is against the rule.
go away the ball.
Yeah, you just swat it aside. I think the wrong way if the ball is going into the net, counts inside. But the idea is that no jump from reach that high, so it's not making a rule. So Michael kept on every time someone did that, he's going, get that shit out of it! He's probably thinking about that sound of furious and not to get one back. It even works because he was so tall. He could grab the ball, place it in the net, and nobody could stop it because no one could reach that high. So he got to the point where his team's offense and defense revolved entirely around passing the ball to him. So as soon as he got the ball, pretty straight to the net. What he did was stand next to the net, catch the ball. His team was just thrown so high, nobody else could reach it, and place it gently in the net, and then walk to the middle and start again. It's got to be where that Fresh Prince scene came from. Pass the ball. I love that in sports movies though, but there's one kid on the team who's clearly better than everybody else. And they say, no, it's the team game. No, like in the Mighty Ducks, they get that player who's better than everybody else. And the coach says, no, we work as a team. No, that kid's clearly better. Pass it to fucking him. Just let that kid win the game. It's fine. We can either have fun or win. We can't do both. Choose coach. Stop being a dickhead. Also, that coach is an arsehole. Do you remember the story of the Mighty Ducks? I don't see it. Okay, the story of the Mighty Ducks, people don't know, right? You're probably going to watch it after you select it. It's this lawyer who's super into winning, gets sentenced to community service, and all you have to coach his PB hockey team. And obviously, in first, it's all about winning, so he realised that's the fun of the game. But halfway through the movie, he realised that due to the technicality, the best player in the league should play for the team when he should be playing for his team. Because of where he lives, where he goes to school. And I'd like to mention that at this point in the film, this lawyer has turned over a new leaf, realised that playing sport is about having fun and making friends. The moment he realised the best kid player in the league is on another team, even though on that team that kid's presumably made friends and he's having fun, he throws a screaming bitch biscuits on his team, and the kid fucking hates it.
Seen as being a negative thing.
No, it's been a positive thing, because obviously that kid is an arsehole and he learns, oh no, the real thing is making friends and having fun. That gets thrown over the go by that lawyer the moment you have to get a good attack and post, best player in the league from my fucking team, fucking arse. I can separate this kid from the friends that he's made to put him on my team with people who don't like him. Fuck this kid, I'll win this league for having community services. Yeah, one man is the direct cause of that. knock the ball out of the net, and as soon as they get the ball to it, he's just going to put it straight in. We can't do anything. And I think some teams tried to pass to Micah, which didn't really work because he was so huge. They did damage to it, but even if they did, he was just playing to his injuries. So even if he couldn't come in the wall, they had the ball, get the ball, and put it in. So tactics that was as soon as we can get any lead we can, doesn't matter how small it is, as soon as you do not let go of the ball. Just hold it in your hands and don't fucking move. Because at the time, that wasn't the case. And some players were so brazen about it. Sit on it. If they need that, the only way for the team to get the ball, pass it to Micah, would be to foul them, putting their team at disadvantage.
How is that not a rule before?
Again, it's a simple one. Like Micah picks the ball out of the net. No officials thought that any player was being played. Sit on the ball and not move. They thought, obviously, they didn't foresee that in the future would be a player so dominant that the only way to his effect would be to sit on the ball, stop the game altogether. And it worked games that have left in them. We now get some of the dullest in the scene of the sport because the opposing team would get one shot, score, and then not move for the rest of the anything for the win, and they said we need to stop doing that. We risk losing viewership, or we risk killing basketball if we allow us to continue. So they implemented a shot clock, which means that once you've got your hands on the ball, and you're going to set amount of time you have to pass it or take a shot. So obviously to keep the flow of game going. But again, that rule was put in place directly because of George fucking Mikan. He was that good. But I wish I could just go back in time and see that first game. And you see like all fucking 6 foot 10 of Mikan walk onto the court, the opposing team. And like people like 5'6", 5'7", laughing at him, going, he could never play basketball. It's the sport for short man. Go back to fucking like what sport would the guy play? Go back to the high school and shit like that. And they just stand there, he gets the ball, strides over the court, 3 steps, just puts it into the net, starts celebrating like a jackass. And he got even better because Mike and his coach eventually realised that we have got the singular most useful asset of any team in the league. Our entire game plan is going to revolve around this one man. Even if he's injured, even when Michael was injured by opposing players like tackling him, he could still do better than 90% of the play. She was stabbing. There's nothing to do. It doesn't matter if you've got a broken leg. You can walk on. You can still stand next to the net, kick the balls away. Yeah, exactly. What's his and as well? Remember, the rules about not moving counted for him as well. So he picks up the ball and handles it. No one can stop him and no one can get the ball.
It's like you do it to like your little brother or sister.
That is a legacy.
The idea of just sitting on the ball wasn't against the rule.
Oh yeah.
Until obviously there's reasons to stop it. I'm trying to think. What other rules it's like obviously Steve, do you reckon he did this? Can you think what scenario might have been?
I think there's a couple of game where this much detail, but I think that forward pass was introduced by Teddy Roosevelt to get dying. One that I do know about is a high jump, but actually the pole box. A rule that is in place now is that you are not allowed to pick up the bar and then grab a front when you go over it. So the guy that gets a ball is entirely allowed. No technique to go over it, and just like when he can, and he grab the bar in midair and re-rack it, and his entire game plan is against the rules. You can hit it on, deliberately touch it through back on. There was another guy in the pole vault again, where so what one guy did is instead of running by 10 centimetres when he realised he could, he broke it by 1 centimetre, and then a couple of weeks later broke it by 1 centimetre, and then another centimetre and then another centimetre so you could keep getting the bonus.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you realise, okay, I can do it by that much. If I can keep the best pizza record, I can sleeping bonuses, juggling technique where you would spin and throw a juggling. Which sounds stupid because it fucking was really dangerous. Because his technique was so ridiculous and he got like a full round, basically threw it like a discus.
Yeah.
And they banned that technique immediately and discounted his record, even though he broke the world record, because they said, if people do that, it will go into the crowd. And I think they redesigned the javelin so it couldn't be thrown as far, because people were doing techniques like that and they said, we cannot build stadiums big enough to stop people doing it. So they redesigned the javelin to catch. That means the javelin world record will likely now never be broken, because the way it's designed is only time growth from a certain distance. But that guy said, no, fuck it. And imagine the first time he walked up to play. I've got this new technique. Okay. Spins around with the thing and throws it into the crowd. Which is awesome. Because someone is stupid asshole.
Just AFK, watch me fight this dude. I mean, he's the only one that's really that fed, right? I guess that's kind of fed. They can really get next to me, so I guess magic resist first wouldn't be too bad. Wait for. Apparently, I'm going to tank Veigar because our tank sucks dick. Our jungle is garbage as well. This dude is completely useless. You guys fucking suck, dude. I had to follow up on that fucking kill that I basically fucking laid out on the platter for them. Shit is ridiculous, bro. Sad part is it doesn't really translate to anything. We have no pressure anywhere. And then you're just getting pushed in and we're losing horribly for no reason other than this dude just cannot rotate around and get kills. Can't gank any other lane. Hopefully I can take this out before someone comes a challenge. Looks like they're giving it up. This thing is not vaping with this shit right now. Driving me nuts. Yeah, it looks like I'm going tank Veigar apparently. Means I will take even longer to scale, but I do become pretty juicy. Okay then. What did he say?
Shut down.
It's only a shred away.
has been destroyed.
Dude is so salty over a game, man. He can suck my nuts. He thinks he's any good, dude. He basically fucking held us back that whole game. Him and this Kled. I'm honestly gonna report Kled though, because he did kind of seem like he was inting, and he would just be like off, like farming in a different lane, and then just this dude. I can't really say AFK, but I mean, how do you never gank? You know, you only ganked like we only came like once, dude. We lost top and mid while we were fighting bot, and it's like, and we still had bot, right? Like we had all our towers bought, and just never came. It was really bad. Nah, but dude, that dude really did kind of suck, bro. Like, I was leaving these easy kills, man. Like, just the easiest kills. Like, I was literally deleting people. I'm a support, man. Like, it shouldn't have been that way. I shouldn't have been able to do as good as I did as a freaking support. It just doesn't make, it's not viable, man. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't. I want to stream on YouTube, although I don't know how practical that is compared to Twitch. Twitch is really easy. Don't get me wrong, YouTube isn't hard to stream on either. I have a couple of viewers on, on Twitch, so it's just easier to like log in there, and then like I know I'm gonna get like a couple eyes, but I think YouTube I could get a wider audience and hopefully get some good stuff going here. I kind of want to run Shaco just because it's been such a terrible run as Veigar. Like, I'm putting up numbers, man, but it's just nowhere near as good as what Veigar can do. As what Shaco can do, especially in that early game. Although mid and late, Veigar really shines. He's like epitome. Once you hit level 6, it's basically over. I can basically 1v1 most ADCs at level 6. With just the passive gold, no farming, poking, and support stuff. Like, you can usually basically 1v1 an ADC. If you land your full rotation. I don't know. It depends on what they pick. We Scorching. Yeah, because we can get aggressive this way. I mean, I can get aggressive with Shaco too, don't get me wrong, but this just plays into a bigger support pool where I can now play a lot more supports using Veigar than I can Shaco. I practice it nonstop, so my Shaco's still good. It's just the matchups kind of suck sometimes, switching you don't know what you're going against, and it's either a Nidalee Ashe or a Swain Ashe, which probably easier to go against with a Veigar, to be honest, because I scale into them, and that's a really big factor. Is like no matter what point in the game, like even if I feed or whatever a little bit, I'm still staying semi close to where they are. Was it Control C or Control V to paste? Control B. I just want to make 100% sure. I don't think it works at League. The post League stuff. It should, but I don't think it does. It doesn't let me. Last time I tried it didn't let me. I'll try again. I see. No matter what, it just won't let me.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Yes! 30 seconds until the minions spawn.
I didn't see an option for what I wanted to do on here. Yeah, it won't let me paste it. I don't know how people do that.
Minions have spawned. You deny the darkness in your soul! You deny your power! You deny the darkness in your soul! You deny your Stalking prey again?
Okay, just don't trade with them at all. I tanked all that for not to trade at all into that. That's cool, man. Cool. Good trade, bro. Hell yeah, keep up the good work, man. Living the life, huh? Still sitting there, no trading yet. Where's the trade? For the fucking love of God, dude. Trade into it. We got it. Come on, trade. You got it. You got that. Come on, keep going. Oh, okay, dude. I'm gonna take both of those, because fuck you, dude. Really milked it there. Really waited till the last fucking second to trade into that. Come on, dude. Like, oh my god. You waited that long and missed that last hit. I am baffled. Trade into that, dude. That was all you, bro. I even baited him back in. Jesus Christ, dude. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm lost for words. Dude, trade into... Dude, you gotta be kidding me, bro. Please report misfortune. This bitch is trolling, dude. This bitch is trolling so hard. Dude, somebody report this asshole, dude. This is bullshit. dude need to refund his skin over there, man. He spent too much money on that thing.
slain. An ally has destroyed a turret.
I didn't have my ult. I flashed the wrong way. Without my ult, I was gonna flash over, alter, and then just walk away, but my ult never went off because I had 3 seconds on it. Whatever. This dude's still a trash ADC. He just AFK in lane fucking while I'm fighting. It's messed up.
Shut down.
It looks like we got this game in the bag pretty easy.
An ally has been slain.
I don't know when I look at that right actually. Yeah, that I think about it. Oh, gotta get back out there and carry this game yet again. Dude, I basically carry bot lane. I mean, I don't know what the fuck that shit was. We should have got tower. I'm a little bit peeved that we didn't get tower there, but it's whatever. Okay, dude, if you say so. Apparently, all of a sudden, he's got pinpoint accuracy after not being able to hit me at all. Fucking. Renekton with no magic resist yet. I don't know what this guy's thinking. I'm gonna go around. Did he see me? Don't look like he saw me. That is bullshit, but okay, whatever you say. That is 100% bullshit. That should have killed me. Whatever, dude. That's fine. I call bullshit, but okay. Okay, man. Let's see, because this does 4, 5, almost 500 damage right there with another fucking 500 damage right there. That's 1k right there already. And he's only got 1857 HP. Come on. Come on now. You really think that math checks out? I don't think it does. I think there's some fucking bullshit on there. Some tomfoolery. Legit bullshit. Douchebag, fuck you. I will delete you, alligator. I'll delete you, crocodile, whatever the hell it is. I will delete the shit out of you. I just didn't think I was gonna need my ult. That was really weird. Do lots of damage. I don't know why our front line won't go out there. It's a little bit annoying. Please, for the love of God, any kind of follow-up would be amazing from you guys, dude. Considering I nearly kill a person with just a Q, man, I really need you to follow up on this. Alright, y'all. We've been going at it for a good little minute now. A minute and 48. Or an hour and 48, sorry. A minute and 48. An hour and 48. I'm thinking about taking a break right here. Because it's about the 2-hour mark. And perhaps a small break. And then I'll start up another one. Just so that y'all don't have to like sit here while I'm AFK for a little bit, you know? I need to get up and stretch and probably grab something to drink, use the restroom real quick. Might grab me a small snack just to munch on. That game was way harder than it needed to be. It sucks how many games are actually like harder than they actually need to be for your team. It's really unfortunate. Looks like we have a pretty good win rate on Veigar here. Maybe not. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to decide which one. Wait, what did it say on match history? Recently played champions 50% of the time, 45% of the time, 5% of the time. Alright, let's look at stats real quick. 52% win rate bracket. Let's see what we got here. 50% win rate. That's lame. I had that all the way up to 90% the other day. 30% win rate. Can you believe that? Only 30% win rate. And I'm talking about putting up some crazy numbers. Like, look at this KD ratio right here for a support. And this damage per death. Like, what? Damage share, kill participation. Like, dude, what? I guess my map control, I guess, is where we fail a little bit. I don't know. That's a tough one. Because 30% just that's so depressing. 60% thrash. I don't know if this was 0% with team. Horrible. 75% win rate. Veigar bot. Played him 4 games with a 75% win rate. It's because Veigar farming, me and farming go together so well. I just never really play anything where I'm farming, like legit farming. Like if I have a lane and I have the ability to farm relatively safely without like constantly getting ganked and stuff, I'm pretty much gonna steamroll that lane no matter what. Even with the ganks, as long as I have a tower I can sit under and they don't really have like a full dive, they don't have the teamwork to dive me 100%, like usually even then I'm good. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream right here, guys, and then we'll probably start up here in another like 10 minutes. Probably give me 10 minutes to finish everything I need to do. I appreciate y'all checking out the stream. If you get a like, comment, subscribe. If you could just like the video, I would appreciate it greatly. Even if you dislike it, hell, put a dislike on there. I can live with that too. This is my first one doing it on YouTube, so I appreciate everyone that came out and checked it out. Just yeah, go ahead, hit me some comments down the bottom. I'll try to respond to as many as possible, and I appreciate it. Hit me up with some gamer tags. I mean, I don't mind hitting up a game or two where we do some